sitting president has decided to prosecute his major opponent, who's leading in all the polls in the country.
Breaking news coming out today that Trump's immunity claim got a frosty reception at the appeals court. However, we're also hearing that he is claiming immunity, and he's also saying this is current President Joe Biden's attempt to stop him from running for presidency because he knows he cannot beat him. They are trying to prosecute him in order to stop him from running in the presidential elections in 2024. Let me know your thoughts, but take a look at this. The headline saying that Trump's charges in federal election interference case, there is one count of conspiracy to defraud the United States, another count conspiracy to obstruct January 6th election certification, a third count of conspiracy against the right to vote and have one's vote counted, and a fourth count, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding. Now, let me know your thoughts on this. Do you think that former President Donald Trump is guilty of these counts and that he should not be allowed to run as president and be convicted of these? Or do you think that these should be waived, that he does have immunity? He actually believed there was fraud, and you're going to be seen here in just a second. He is going to say that he still believes that and has evidence and proof that will be coming forward, and also that he should have the ability to run. And you think that current sitting President Joe Biden is doing this because he knows that he will not win against former President Donald Trump? Let me know your thoughts, but let's go ahead and take a look at the video footage so that way you can see it for yourself, what President Trump had to say and his attorneys. But before we do me a quick favor. If you appreciate the updates, don't forget, smash the like button, hit subscribe to stay up to date. It's totally free. Why not? And to join me off of social media platforms, be sure to sign up at www.steveramnews.com. But with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right in.
The former president talking today about being in court. Let's listen in even before he starts as they do the setup here.
Sitting president has decided to prosecute his major opponent, who's leading in all the polls in the country. The issues that the court had to deal with today were momentous. Whether or not a president of the United States could be prosecuted for carrying out his responsibilities, doing his job as president. We can't have a country where every 4 years there's a cycle of political recrimination, where one administration attacks a prior administration, when in fact that candidate is leading in the polls and will be the next president of the United States. As our legal team, as our appellate team made clear, that would be a disaster for our country. That would be a direct attack on democracy, and that cannot happen. What was very significant today, and I'm sure you all caught it, is the special counsel conceded that if it was President Obama who was being prosecuted for a drone strike, then they'd have to consider immunity. But when it's not, when it's President Trump, then they're taking the position that there's no immunity for presidential acts that were required when a president is carrying out his job responsibilities. If we adopt what the special counsel wants, if we adopt what President Biden wants, then we open the Pandora's box to political prosecution after political prosecution after political prosecution. In fact, Joe Biden could be prosecuted for trying to stop this man from becoming the next president of the United States. We don't need political prosecutions, we need political process. I'd like to introduce President Trump.
Well, I want to thank you all, and we had a very momentous day in terms of what was learned and what they've conceded. They conceded two major points that were they were right in doing it. I don't think they had much of a choice, but they're very, very big, very powerful points. And I think we're doing very well. I think it's very unfair when a political opponent, is prosecuted by the DOJ, by Biden's DOJ. So they're losing in every poll. They're losing in almost every demographic. Numbers came out today that are really very mind-boggling if you happen to be Joe Biden. And I think they feel this is the way they're going to try and win. And that's not the way it goes. That'll be bedlam in the country. It's a very bad thing. It's a very bad precedent. As we said, it's the opening of a Pandora's box, and it's a very sad thing that's happened with this whole situation. When they talk about threat to democracy, that's your real threat to democracy. And I feel that as a president, you have to have immunity. Very simple. And if you don't, as an example, if this case were lost on immunity, and I did nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong, working for the country. And I worked on very hard on voter fraud because we have to have free elections. We have to have strong borders. We have to have free elections. Those two things almost above all. And we found tremendous voter fraud. We have a list of it. We have some findings if you want it. The press doesn't like reporting it, but we found tremendous voter fraud, determinative voter fraud. But we worked on that. That's what I was doing. And they were talking about after. Well, nothing has to do with after I left. It was during the time. And that was what they really focused on today during the appeal. And they concede that, and everybody concedes that. And if it's during the time, you have absolute immunity. So we'll see how it all works out. We have a great argument. We have an argument with, they conceded two major points today. In fact, I think it's probably a concession. You have to ask the lawyers, Todd, if you'd like to talk about it. But they conceded 2 points that I think were, by normal standards, if it weren't me, that would be the end of this case. But sometimes they look at me differently than they look upon others, and that's very bad for our country. You had a very big event yesterday, as you saw, in Georgia, where the district attorney is totally compromised. The case has to be dropped. They went after, I guess, 18 or 20 people. They wanted to go after a lot of other people. They wanted to go after senators. She was out of her mind. Now it turns out that that case is totally compromised. In fact, they say she's in far more criminal liability than any of the people she's looking at. So I think that when you look at what happened, where they pay a lawyer with absolutely no experience $700,000 who happens to be her lover or her boyfriend, and then they go on trips and vacations together, very expensive vacations together. And the reason they paid him so much because he was after me, because this way they can afford to pay him a lot more. It probably passes certain tests. And that's a very sad thing that happened in Georgia, and I would imagine that case is going to be dropped. Every legal analyst that I've spoken to, every legal analyst that I've read have said that case is so compromised now it has to be dropped. Very good people were very badly hurt by that case. It's a shame. Very good people. People did nothing wrong. They did nothing different than what Democrats have been doing for years and years and years, whether it's slates or anything else that you're talking about. But they were very hurt, and it turns out that she profited tremendously on that case. It's illegal. What she did is illegal. So we'll let the state handle that. But what a sad situation it is. I want to thank everybody for the fairness. We've been covered very fairly. Most people agree that we're entitled as a president to immunity. If you didn't have immunity, as an example, Joe Biden with the prosecutor, we're not going to give you $1 billion unless you get rid of the prosecutor that's after the company or his son or whoever it is they're after. But he wanted that prosecutor gone, and he's on tape saying it. Or you could say the horrible job he's done at the border where our country is being destroyed, or the horrible situation that took place. The lowest moment, I think, in the history of our country was Afghanistan, the way we withdrew. Not that we withdrew, but the way we withdrew. With shame, we surrendered. People killed, 13 great soldiers killed, many unbelievably, horrifically hurt, wounded, hurt. And hundreds of people died on both sides. Hundreds of people died. He could be prosecuted for that. So you can't have a president without immunity. You have to have, as a president, you have to be able to do your job. But if this didn't work out, if I wasn't given immunity, then other presidents, when we talked about today, President Obama with the drone strikes, which were very bad, and they were mistakes, terrible mistakes. You really can't put a president in that position. So I think most people understand it, and we feel very confident that eventually, hopefully at this level, but eventually we win. A president has to have immunity. And the other thing is, I did nothing wrong. We did nothing wrong. The investigation of the election, which was a rigged election, everybody knows it. And just if you just look at, they didn't use state legislatures, and they went to the FBI, and you look at FBI and Twitter, the Twitter files with the FBI, all of the horrible things, FISA, the FISA court, the signed documents, the lying to Congress, and the stuffing of the ballot boxes, all on tape. Stuffing of ballot boxes, all on tape. Government tape. And most of the information, as you know, we'll give you some of the findings that just came out, but all of that information, as you know, was gotten from mostly government sources, government tapes, government files, and government stats. So it's very sad when something like that happens. You know, you wouldn't have inflation, but much more importantly, you wouldn't have had the Ukraine situation with Russia. You wouldn't have had the attack on Israel. You'd have a much different economy right now. You'd have a great economy, and we would be respected all over the world the way we were just 3 years ago. So I want to thank everybody very much, and we think we had a very good day today. The concession of these two major points was pretty amazing, and honestly, I'm very glad they did it. I think they did the right thing. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, you just used the word bedlam. Will you tell your supporters now, no matter what, no violence?
So there you have it again. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Now, in addition to that, we also received warning that the United States is entering into conflict in the Middle East, and we have just received a warning from another nation that things will become catastrophic if the war in the Middle East between Israel and Hamas and the Gaza Strip does not come to an end. Now, to get the latest on that, be sure to check out this video right here as I covered it in detail for you. And with that being said, though, that is the latest, and I'll be sure to keep you up to date as more information rolls out. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.